poll this morning has given the Out campaign a 6-point lead, the highest it's been since the general election. Well, I'm joined now by the former Chancellor. He is, of course, Lord Lawson, now president of the Eurosceptic group Conservatives for Britain. So you've got to counter that argument. Very good morning to you, Lord Lawson.
Good morning, Jeremy.
A leap into the void.
It's an extraordinary expression because, of course, it's not a void. It's a place called the world. And we know the world quite well. It's not outer space. And we do an enormous amount of business all over the world. We trade with the world, we invest, they invest in us. We have all manner of links. And indeed, because the European market, sadly, is something of a disaster zone at the moment, our trade with the rest of the world is growing faster.
But we still do the majority of our trade with the European Union.
No, it's not the majority, but it is a lot. But and it only accounts for about 15% of our total economy, because of course a lot of our economy is trade within our own country. But it's we will carry on. I don't know whether you ever have time in your busy life to go shopping, but if you do, you will find goods on the shelves from all over the world. You don't have to be within the European Union to trade with the European Union. That is a complete nonsense. So really the question is, would we do better outside? And I have no doubt that we would, quite apart from the fact that it is primarily a political project. It's not an economic project. It's one of the reasons why it's no good. It's a political project and a perfectly legitimate one, but it's one whose objective we don't share.
But as, I mean, I've got to throw this at you because, of course, as a poacher turned gamekeeper, as Chancellor, you shadowed the Deutschmark in preparation for trying to join the forerunner of the euro, the exchange rate mechanism. You've changed your view because you then, presumably, you thought it was primarily an economic organisation.
No, I didn't. I'd written that it was a political organisation. But the difference is that when I was shadowing the Deutschmark, I think this is a little bit old hat, but when I was shadowing the Deutschmark, it was a matter of keeping our own currency. What has happened now is there is a monetary union, a currency union, the Eurozone, and this has changed the dynamics totally.
Is there anything that the Prime Minister can bring back from Brussels that would change you and your supporters' mind? We're hearing now that, there's a lot of progress being made. Jean-Claude Juncker saying we think a deal can be done, that perhaps Britain could become, this is further in the rumour mill, Britain could become some kind of second-tier member of the European Union and keep those economic links.
I have read very carefully what David Cameron has asked for in his letter to President Tusk of the European Union. And even, in my judgment, even if he gets 100% of what he's asked for, and it's unlikely he'll get more than 100%, but we shall see. Even if he gets 100% of what he's asked for, it is inconsequential. Just as in 1975, Harold Wilson came back and conned the people of this country into believing he'd secured a fundamental reform when, of course, he hadn't.
So you'll draw parallels with, you think, the plan Mr Cameron has, that can't come back and pump up, inflate what he's got?
I suspect that may be the case, yes. And I don't think the British people will be so keen to be conned a second time.
OK, well, what do you think then also about the nature of the campaign? Now, he's said once the deal, whatever shape that takes, is done. And of course, technically, the Prime Minister says he could still vote against it. That looks pretty unlikely. But within his own cabinet, his own ministers, they will then be free to campaign according to their conscience. But up to this point, we're talking to people like you, not cabinet members who have doubts about membership of the European Union, because they're not allowed to speak out yet.
But they are going to be able to speak out, and they will speak out. And that's good and that's healthy. And it's also very important because whatever the result of the referendum, and in my judgment, it's likely to be pretty close. Either way, whatever the result of the referendum, the Conservative Party will need to come together again and carry on governing on a whole range of issues on which it is completely united and which it is necessary for the British people that it should continue to govern once this is over. So David Cameron was very sensible to allow members of cabinet to do their own thing, campaign the way they feel is right. And I believe that it is clear in my mind what is right, and also I think the British people are concerned that the European Union is such a profoundly undemocratic institution. We in this country have an addiction to democracy, and we like to feel that we have self-government, and that's what the immigration issue is about, whether we have control of our own borders.
But just the addiction to democracy, long may it last, is of course all about fairness. And on the issue of fairness, just on what the Prime Minister has allowed, hasn't he given, though, the Euro supporters, the Europhiles, a head start? They're allowed campaign, they're allowed to speak out. We're just about to speak to one of them next.
Yes, I think, I think that perhaps he has, but there are so many bigger issues at stake that I don't want to start arguing about that. It is the future of our country which is at stake, and it is, I have no doubt whatever, that politically and economically, on both fronts, we would do far better outside it. We're a big country. We are the fifth biggest economy in the world. We have a lot of clout, and the idea that we're somehow like Norway or something like that is ludicrous. Anyone who understands an ounce of realpolitik knows that we could do very, very well outside.
But just let me ask you about the leadership of your campaign. You feel it's important that, as we've been discussing here, that the discussion, the argument, the debate is framed mainly by the economy, and you have said in the past you don't want the xenophobes to be seen to be leading the campaign.
No, I think that when it comes to the campaign will be led probably by both a member of the present cabinet and also by some very experienced senior businessmen who know that we would prosper more outside the European Union.
Any names for that member of the cabinet?
You will find out in due course.
What about UKIP? You don't want Nigel Farage involved then?
No, he's doing his own thing. UKIP are doing their own thing, but they have a different perspective from the perspective that we have. And the big issue is who will be designated by the Electoral Commission as the Leave campaign group, and I have no doubt it'll be us.
But could UKIP, give it that xenophobic tinge? Is that your issue?
Look, this is a free country. He is entitled to do his own thing. I disagree with a lot of what he says, but as I say, this is a free country, and long may it remain.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.